Every lost civilization begins with Atlantis. Around 360 BC, the Greek philosopher Plato wrote that the statesman Solon had traveled to Egypt, where priests told him a story older than Greece itself. 9,000 years before their time, they said, a mighty island empire rose from the Atlantic Ocean beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Atlantis was a ringed city of alternating bands of water and stone, rich in metals, elephants, and engineering, and for a time it was just and prosperous. But as its people grew greedy and corrupt, the gods turned against them. Then came the war with ancient Athens, and finally the catastrophe. In a single day and night of misfortune, earthquakes and floods swallowed the island whole, and Atlantis vanished beneath the sea, leaving only an impassable barrier of mud. For over 2,000 years, this story has launched 1,000 expeditions and obsessed the world. It is the mother of all lost civilizations. For centuries, explorers have searched the Atlantic for Atlantis, but the strongest evidence points elsewhere. Many scholars link the legend to the Minoan civilization and the volcanic island of Thera, now Santorini, whose catastrophic eruption around 1600 BC shattered a wealthy sea culture and may have inspired Plato's flood. Others point to the Richet structure in Mauritania, a vast circular formation of concentric rings that eerily matches Plato's description, though geologists insist it is a natural dome, not a city. Here is the crucial distinction Mythoros always makes: legend, theory, and evidence. The evidence shows that real coastal civilizations were indeed drowned as Ice Age glaciers melted and seas rose dramatically. Atlantis may be a philosophical warning about pride, but the pattern it describes is entirely real, and that exact pattern repeats across the globe, beginning far to the east. Before we travel east to the drowned continents of legend, I want to connect with you. Please comment below the country you are watching from and the exact time you found this video. If you are ready to explore the hidden layers of our world and uncover the truth, please like this video and subscribe to Mythoros for more deeply researched journeys into humanity's enduring stories. Now, as we leave the Atlantic behind, we enter the warm oceans of the Indian and Pacific worlds, where another lost continent has captured the human imagination for over a century. Its name is Lemuria, and its story begins not with mystics, but with scientists. It is a tale of lemurs, land bridges, and a spiritual continent that millions still believe in today. To understand Lemuria, we must first understand a simple scientific puzzle about a small, wide-eyed primate, and the answer to that puzzle changed the way we see the Earth itself. In 1864, the British zoologist Philip Sclater faced a puzzle. Tiny lemurs lived on both Madagascar and India, yet their fossils appeared in both places, separated by a vast ocean. Since land mammals cannot cross open sea, Sclater proposed that a great land bridge, or even a sunken continent, once connected India and Madagascar. He named this lost land Lemuria. At the time, this was serious science, a rational attempt to explain the distribution of life before the theory of plate tectonics existed. For decades, biologists and geologists debated the shape and size of this vanished land. But Lemuria's fate changed forever when it left the laboratory and entered the world of mysticism, where it would become something far stranger. Theosophists and occult writers seized upon the idea, transforming a zoological hypothesis into a lost continent of advanced spiritual beings, a motherland of the human soul. The mystic Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical movement adopted Lemuria as a lost continent of giant spiritually advanced beings, one of the root races of humanity. Decades later, the writer James Churchward went further, inventing Mu, a vast Pacific continent of 64 million people, whose survivors supposedly seeded the ancient civilizations of Egypt and the Maya. Churchward claimed this came from ancient Nakul tablets, though no such tablets have ever been verified. Meanwhile, in southern India, a far older and far more living tradition spoke of Kumari Kandam, a great Tamil land swallowed by the sea. Unlike Mu, Kumari Kandam is not a Western invention. It is a genuine cultural memory of a people who believe their ancient homeland lies beneath the Indian Ocean. For the Tamil people, the drowned land is not fantasy. It is history, identity, and loss woven into poetry that is thousands of years old. Here is the twist that makes Lemuria so fascinating. Modern plate tectonics completely destroyed the idea of a sunken continent. Continents do not sink, they drift. Yet the human story behind Lemuria is entirely real. At the end of the last ice age, melting glaciers raised global sea levels by over 100 meters, drowning vast coastal plains from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. Real lands, real forests, and real human settlements vanished beneath the waves within living memory of our ancestors. So while the continent of Lemuria never existed, the memory of a drowned world is written into our coastlines and our oldest stories. And some lost lands were never drowned at all. Some were simply hidden, high in the mountains of Tibet, beyond the reach of any rising sea. Another lost civilization was said to survive. A kingdom of enlightened beings waiting for the world to be ready. Its name is Shambhala. Shambhala first appears in the Kalachakra Tantra, a profound Buddhist text that describes a hidden kingdom lying somewhere beyond the snowy ranges of the north. It is portrayed as a pure land, a place where the teachings are preserved in their perfect form, and where the people live in harmony, guided by enlightened kings. According to prophecy, when the world descends into darkness and war, the last king of Shambhala, Rudra Chakran, will ride out with a great army to defeat the forces of ignorance and inaugurate a new golden age. For centuries, explorers, monks, and mystics searched the high plateaus of Tibet and Mongolia for this hidden realm, guided by cryptic maps and oral instructions that pointed to a place no compass could find. Some believed it lay in a hidden valley. Others insisted it existed on a subtler plane, visible only to those whose karma was pure. This brings us to its mysterious twin, Agartha. Agartha is the esoteric twin of Shambhala, described in later occult writings as a vast inner kingdom, sometimes placed beneath the earth or in a hidden Himalayan valley, ruled by a supreme being known as the King of the World. Unlike Shambhala, which is rooted in genuine Buddhist scripture, Agartha is largely a product of 19th and 20th century European esotericism, blended with Eastern motifs. Here is the distinction that matters. Shambhala was never meant to be found on a map. In its own tradition, it is a pure land reachable only through karma and practice. The physical search was always a metaphor for the inner journey. The explorers who chased it across the frozen steppes returned with something far more valuable than a city, a transformed understanding of themselves. The search itself was the destination, and from these hidden kingdoms of the snow, we now turn to golden cities swallowed by the living jungle. From the hidden kingdoms of the snow, we descend into the green hell of the Amazon, where the greatest golden legend of the Americas was born. But here is the first surprise. El Dorado was never a city. El Dorado was a person. The name means the Gilded One, and it referred to the king of the Muisca people of modern Colombia. During a sacred ceremony at Lake Guatavita, the new king was covered in gold dust and sailed out on a raft, throwing offerings of gold and emeralds into the water as he washed the dust from his body. Spanish conquistadors witnessed the echoes of this ritual and made a fatal error of translation. They turned a man into a place. And once El Dorado became a city of gold, it became an obsession that would consume thousands of lives. Expeditions vanished into the jungle chasing a mirage, and entire rivers ran red with the cost of a dream that never existed. The jungle keeps its gold. As the Inca Empire collapsed under Spanish conquest, a new legend rose from the ashes. Paititi, the lost last refuge of the Inca, a hidden city deep in the Amazon where the survivors guarded their treasure and their gods. For centuries, missionaries and adventurers searched for it and never returned. In the 20th century, the British explorer Percy Fawcett vanished in 1925 while searching for his own lost city, which he simply called Z. He was mocked as a dreamer, and for decades the jungle seemed to prove his critics right. But modern technology has delivered the ultimate twist. LiDAR scanning beneath the canopy has revealed vast networks of earthworks, roads, and raised fields, proving the Amazon once supported sophisticated, densely populated societies. The lost cities were real. They simply died from European disease before science could see them. The jungle hides cities, the sea hides kingdoms. We cross the Atlantic to the storm-washed coasts of Europe, where the sea has swallowed entire kingdoms and left only bells beneath the waves. In Brittany, France, The legend tells of Wise, a magnificent city built below sea level and protected by a great dike and a single golden key. King Gradlon ruled there, but his daughter Dahut, drawn to pleasure and dark magic, stole the key and opened the floodgates, either by trickery or by drunken folly. The ocean rushed in and drowned the city in a single night. Gradlon escaped on horseback, carrying his daughter, but a saint commanded him to cast her into the sea to save himself. He obeyed, and Ys was lost forever. They say that on calm days, the bells of Wise can still be heard ringing beneath the waves of the bay. In one version, Wise is not gone but sleeping, and it is prophesied that one day the city will rise again when the first Mass is sung over its drowned cathedral. Just across the water, in Cornwall, England, lies Lyonesse, the sunken land said to stretch between Land's End and the Isles of Scilly, famous as the home of the hero Tristan. Fishermen claim to hear church bells beneath the swell, and to haul up ancient stones and timber from a lost world in their nets. In Wales, the tale of Cantre'r Gwaelod, the 100 Lowlands, tells of a fertile kingdom lying below sea level, protected by great seawalls and sluice gates, drowned when a drunken watchman left the gates open. The memory of that drowning survived in song long after the land was gone. Here is the twist that turns fairy tale into history. These are not mere inventions. At the end of the Ice Age, sea levels rose dramatically, and real coastal plains vanished. Submerged forests, still visible in Cardigan Bay today, are the silent proof that a green land once stood where the sea now rolls. The sea drowns kingdoms, the desert swallows cities whole. From the drowning coasts of Europe, we travel to the burning sands of Arabia, where the Quran speaks of Iram of the Pillars, a great city of the arrogant people of Ad, who boasted that none were mightier than they. For their pride, a screaming wind was sent against them for 7 nights and 8 days, and the city was buried beneath the sand. For over 1,000 years, Iram was thought to be pure moral allegory, a warning written in scripture. But in the ancient frankincense trade, a real city named Ubar served as a wealthy oasis hub, and its name survived in Bedouin legend as a lost Atlantis of the sands. Then, in 1992, researchers turned to a new kind of magic, NASA satellite radar imagery. Scanning the empty desert of Oman, they detected converging ancient trade routes and, at their crossing, the faint outline of a buried fortress city. What the satellites revealed was not a myth, but a true memory waiting in the sand. Ubar had been found. When archaeologists dug at the site the satellites had marked, they found the truth behind the legend. Ubar, the oasis of the frankincense road, had not been destroyed by a divine wind, but by the ground itself. The city had been built over a vast underground cavern, and as its people drew too much water from the aquifer, the limestone roof weakened until, one day, it collapsed, swallowing the city into a sinkhole and burying it beneath the sand. The arrogant city of Iram and the sunken Ubar became one and the same story. A moral warning wrapped around a geological fact. This lost city was actually found, not by digging blindly, but by looking at the desert from space. It proved that scripture, legend, and satellite could tell a single truth. For the people of the desert, the lesson was clear: no wealth, no walls, and no pride can stand when the earth itself opens beneath you. The sands remember what the maps forget. If the desert gave up one city, the sea would give up another. We return to the sea, this time to the warm coast of Gujarat, India, where one of the most sacred cities of Hindu legend is said to sleep beneath the waves. Dwarka was the golden city of Krishna built. The texts say, on land reclaimed from the ocean by the god himself. It was a marvel of palaces, gates, and gardens, the proud capital of his kingdom. But the Mahabharata warns that after Krishna's death, the sea came to reclaim what was owed. As the people fled, the ocean rose and swallowed Dwarka whole, leaving only the temple on the shore as a memory. For centuries this was read as pure devotion, a story of divine power and impermanence. Yet the Arabian Sea off modern Dwarka has never fully kept its secret. Marine archaeologists have long suspected that the legend might preserve a real event, and beginning in the 20th century, divers began to search the seabed for the city of Krishna. What they found beneath the waves turned a story of faith into one of the most exciting questions in Indian archaeology. Off the coast of Dwarka, divers have documented submerged stone walls, gateways, and massive stone anchors, along with pottery and structures that suggest a real working harbor town now lying under the sea. Here, we must hold the Mythoros distinction carefully: legend, theory, and evidence. The evidence is real. There are genuine submerged structures. The theory that these are the remains of the Dwarka of Krishna is hotly debated, and the dating of the site ranges across centuries. But the twist is this: whether or not the stones belong to Krishna's city, the myth almost certainly preserves a genuine memory of a coastal settlement drowned by rising seas, a fate shared by so many lost lands on our journey. The sea takes, and the sea keeps. It is a humbling reminder that our maps are only a snapshot of a restless planet, and the oldest map of all lies under the North Sea. From one drowned coast, we now travel to a far older one, buried not by water, but by time beneath the North Sea. Beneath the cold, gray waters of the North Sea lies the most real lost country on our entire list. Its name is Doggerland. At the end of the last ice age, Britain was not an island. It was a peninsula of Europe, connected by a vast, low-lying plain of rivers, lagoons, and marshes that stretched from modern Scotland to Denmark. This was Doggerland, a hunter's paradise where Mesolithic people followed herds of mammoth, elk, and reindeer, fishing the rich rivers and gathering along the shores. For thousands of years, it was the heart of northern Europe. But as the great ice sheets melted, the sea began to rise, slowly at first, then with terrifying speed. The hunting grounds shrank into islands, and the islands shrank into sandbanks. The people of Doggerland were pushed west until the last of them stood on the final ridges, watching the sea take their world. And then, around 6,200 BC, the sea delivered its final blow, not with a slow rise, but with a wall of water. The land was gone, and with it, a whole way of life. That final blow came from the Storga Slide, one of the largest underwater landslides in known history, off the coast of Norway. It sent a massive tsunami racing across the North Sea, striking the low coasts of Doggerland with waves many meters high, drowning the last settlements in a single afternoon. The evidence for this drowned world is hauled up every day. North Sea fishing trawlers regularly dredge mammoth bones, stone tools, antler harpoons, and even human remains from the seabed, silent witnesses to a vanished world. Here is the twist that makes Doggerland the true Atlantis of the North. It is not a myth at all. It is a real country, with real people lying under the sea. And its survivors, pushed west onto the rising highlands, became the very first islanders of Britain. We are, in a very real sense, the descendants of the drowned. But not every lost civilization was taken by water. Some were simply erased from history. From the drowned north, we travel to the sunny south of Spain, to a civilization so rich that the ancient world could barely believe it existed. Its name was Tartessos, a metal trading culture that flourished where the Guadalquivir River meets the Atlantic. Tartessos controlled the silver, gold, tin, and copper of Iberia, and its wealth became legendary across the Mediterranean. The Greeks told of its fabulously rich king, Arganthonius, who supposedly lived over 100 years and gave away fortunes of silver to visiting traders. Many scholars believe Tartessos is the same as the biblical Tarshish, the distant port that sent ships laden with gold, silver, ivory, and peacocks to King Solomon. It was a bridge between worlds, a meeting point of native Iberians, Phoenician sailors, and Greek dreamers. And then, around 500 BC, it simply vanished. No invasion was recorded. No great war was written down. One of the wealthiest cultures of the West simply faded from the page of history. What happened to Tartessos remains one of archaeology's great unsolved mysteries. Some believe the shift of Phoenician trade routes cut off its lifeblood. Others point to an earthquake and tsunami that may have swallowed its coastal heart, a fate echoing Atlantis itself. But here is the twist that separates Tartessos from every other lost civilization on our list. It was real. It was immensely rich, and yet it vanished so completely that even today, after more than a century of searching, archaeologists still cannot find its capital city. We have its gold, its jewelry, its inscriptions, and its legends. But the beating heart of the kingdom remains hidden in the mud of the Guadalquivir. Perhaps the river keeps it safe, waiting for the day the sea finally gives it back. Tartessos proves that a civilization can be fabulously successful and still be forgotten. From a forgotten empire of the Atlantic, we now cross the world to a built mystery in the Pacific. Half a world away, on the tiny island of Pohnpei in Micronesia, rises one of the most astonishing constructions on Earth, Nan Madol, the Venice of the Pacific. This is not a ruin of mud or wood, but a megalithic city built on a coral reef made of nearly 100 artificial islets separated by a network of canals. Its walls are stacked from colossal basalt logs, hexagonal columns of volcanic rock, some weighing many tons, laid in alternating layers like a giant's game of logs. Local legend says the city was raised by the sorcerer twins Olisipa and Olusupa, who flew the great stones into place, with the help of a dragon and the magic of the Sky People. It became the seat of the Saudeleur dynasty, a line of rulers who unified the island under a single powerful crown. For centuries it was the ceremonial and political heart of the island, a place of tombs, temples, and canoes gliding between stone walls. And then, like so many on our list, it was abandoned, its canals silted and its great halls given to the jungle and the sea. The great mystery of Nan Madol is one of pure engineering. How did a small island society with no metal tools, no wheels, and no draft animals quarry, transport, and stack hundreds of thousands of tons of basalt? Columns had to be carried from volcanic sites on the far side of the island, moved across reef and lagoon, and fitted with astonishing precision. Some suggest the stones were moved over ice, others over rollers and rafts, but no answer fully satisfies. The builders left no written record, only the stones themselves, silent and immense. Here is the twist. Nan Madol is not lost at all. It is abandoned, standing in plain sight, and its construction still puzzles modern engineers who struggle to explain the logistics with the technology of the time. It is a monument to what human organization, belief, and labor can achieve when a whole society moves as one. From the warm canals of the Pacific, our journey now turns to the frozen edge of the known world, where the Greeks placed a land of eternal spring beyond the north wind. From the built mysteries of the Pacific we travel to the frozen edge of the known world, where the ancient Greeks placed a paradise they called Hyperborea, the land beyond the north wind. In their telling, this was a blessed country where the sun never truly set, where people lived for 1,000 years in perfect health, free from war, disease, and old age. It was sacred to Apollo, who was said to visit it each winter, and its people sent mysterious gifts, passed from land to land, all the way to the great temple at Delphi. Hyperborea was never a place of fear but of longing. The Greek answer to a simple human question: is there not somewhere just beyond the map where life is as it should be? The idea proved more durable than any map, inspiring poets, geographers, and, much later, explorers convinced the far north hid a warm and golden land. To understand the search, we must meet the one man who actually sailed to the edge of the world. Around 330 BC, a Greek explorer from the trading colony of Massalia, named Pythias, sailed north beyond the 10 islands of Britain and into waters no Mediterranean sailor had ever seen. He described a land of midnight sun, of a sea thick like jelly, and of a place the natives called Thule, the farthest north, where the sun barely set in summer. This was Ultima Thule, the edge of the world. Pythias was mocked at home as a liar, yet his observations of the midnight sun and the tides were astonishingly accurate. Here we must add a necessary caution. Centuries later, the myth of a superior northern race was twisted by modern occultists, and, most darkly, by the racists of the 20th century to justify hatred. That distortion has nothing to do with the ancient myth. The truth is, gentler and more beautiful. Hyperborea was never a place to find. It was the Greek idea of paradise, located always just beyond the map, a mirror of human hope. And from the frozen edge, our journey turns to the burning sands. From the frozen edge of the world we descend into the burning heart of the Sahara, where a different kind of lost place hides. Zerzura, the oasis of little birds, Arab geographers and desert legends spoke of a white city deep in the Libyan desert, its walls gleaming, its palms heavy with dates, its gates closed, with a sleeping king and queen, and a treasure waiting for the one worthy enough to enter. By the early 20th century, this legend had captured European imaginations, and a real group of desert explorers, officers, and pilots formed the so-called Zerzura Club, dedicating themselves to finding the lost oasis. Among them was the Hungarian Count Lszl Alm Sy, the real man behind the English patient who crisscrossed the dunes by car and by plane, mapping the empty quarter and chasing whispers of a green valley that no map admitted existed. They found wells, ancient camel bones, and the tracks of long-gone caravans, but the White City always stayed one ridge further on. Yet the desert itself was about to reveal a secret far older than any city. Here is the twist that turns the legend of Zerzura from fantasy into deep history. The Sahara was not always a desert. During the Green Sahara period, roughly 10 to 5,000 years ago, the same region was a savanna of lakes, grasslands, and rivers, full of fish, cattle, hippos, and human communities who painted their lives on the rocks. Then the rains shifted south, the grass died, and the sand advanced, turning a fertile homeland into the largest hot desert on Earth. So the lost oasis of Zerzura is not a single hidden city, but a genuine folk memory of a green past that turned to sand, carried in stories across thousands of years. The desert remembers being alive. Every lost civilization is a warning and a gift. And with that, we reach the single truth that binds every story in this journey together. From Atlantis to Zerzura, it is a truth about water, and about memory, and about us. Look at the pattern we have uncovered. Atlantis, Lemuria, Wise, and Doggerland were taken by the sea as the ice melted and the oceans rose. Ubar and Zerzura were swallowed by the desert as the rains failed. Tartessos faded when its trade collapsed, and the Amazonian cities fell to disease. The lost civilizations are real. The names are the myths we give them. Beneath every legend is a genuine event: a tsunami, a drought, a flood, a plague, a shifting coast. Our ancestors could not write seismology or climatology, so they wrote stories of angry gods, stolen keys, and proud cities struck down. Those stories were their science, their archive, and their warning, encoded so that it would survive. And survive it did, until we could finally read it again, with satellites, sonar, and LiDAR. This is why these tales refuse to die. They are not decoration. They are data, wrapped in the only format that lasts forever, a story your grandmother will repeat. The myths were the backup. The land was the hard drive. The final lesson of every lost civilization is humbling and empowering at once. Each of these societies, from the ringed towers of Atlantis to the basalt walls of Nan Madol, believed itself eternal. The lost ones teach us memory. They remind us that coastlines move, deserts advance, and fortunes turn, and that what survives is not gold or stone, but the story a people leave behind. You carry their memory now, and with it, a responsibility to build in a way that remembers, to live on a changing planet with open eyes, and to pass the story on, unbroken, to those who come after you. The map of the lost is also the map of the future. So the next time you hear of a drowned bell, a buried city, or a green land under the sand, remember that you are hearing the voice of real ancestors, reaching across thousands of years to say, "We were here, and we were real." If this journey through the lost civilizations of our world resonated with you, please comment below. I remembered. Tell us the country you are watching from, and the time you found us. Please like and subscribe to Mythoros, and I will see you in the next video.